To adopt the agenda as mailed.
Second. Aye.
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 Delegation.
No delegation.
No delegation.
Doesn't look like the
Consent
sound's
agenda.
on.
Correspondence.
We have one correspondence, it's a thank you from Mrs. Fager and Mrs. Linton. Thank you for the treat. Our days are so hectic that it was nice to take a breath and have a sweet snack. We got them a snack and a pop.
Awesome.
So,
Treasurer's report.
okay, I'll move back to that page. Back on September 1st, we got some state money in the general, $350,312. We also got some county money on September. General, 41,000, and some capital outlay money, 11,463. On the back page of that, or the second page, we got some bond and interest money from the county as well, an amount of 24,000. Petty cash reimbursement, looks like we need $118.54 for the elementary, $56.01 for the middle school, and $25 for the superintendent's office. I'll go back to payment of the bills. Page 1, notable items. I think we got, we ordered these a long time ago, but I think they're basketball warm-ups for the high school. Those would have been ordered last summer, but I don't see anything else on the second page. We just got some disinfectant and cleaning materials coming in. That's going to Sparks. Page 3. About the middle of the page, I think that's the last payment to the boiler replacement, that $25,000. I think we're done with that. The McElroy's, and then Midwest, a few lines down, there's Midwest Laser Leveling for some fertilizing and some other things they've done. Then another couple lines down, there's Moby Max. That's for remote learning and online learning. Down at the bottom of the page, you see the Psychometric Corporation. That's for random drug testing. We've done the first round this year already. Page 4, about a third of the way down, you see some face masks. That's Stewart Promotion. Those are the masks we bought for the students. Every student got 5 cloth masks. I don't know how many of them wear them, but they have them.
Oh, so it's just now hidden.
Yeah, some of these are just now hidden.
I gotcha.
That was done before school started.
Yeah.
And then at the almost just right towards the end there, you'll see that we have our second Three Lakes payment, $133,641, second assessment.
I like this layout. It's easier to read, this layout.
That will be your new layout then.
It does look good. I was wondering why I was looking at this different.
I uploaded the wrong.
I'm looking at a different page, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
So, and the addendums, we're sitting at 89.57% on the general remaining and 96.43 of the supplemental general remaining. That's it, unless you have a question on a bill or anything else.
Quick question. Has the money came from the county yet that we get on the?
It's been mailed, but we do not have it yet. And I have quite a bit of technology that we'd like to, some
So-
hotspots and some different things like that, some.
That'll go into a separate fund somewhere. I mean, it's gonna be broken down somewhere different. right?
We have a, Pam keeps that on a whole separate spreadsheet,
Okay.
an account. It's set up into a fund, and if you look there, anything that you see on the payment of the bills, like if you go to the page
Or the mask.
2, or, yeah, any of those, that's a 36,600 account
Oh,
number.
that's right.
Okay,
Yeah, that's Sparks money.
okay.
Well, I call it Spark money.
I would make a motion, we adopt the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 9th, 2020. And the petty cash, and treasurer's report of September 30th, petty cash amounts in the amount of $118.54 for elementary school, $56.01 for the middle school, $25 for the superintendent, and the payment of bills be allowed in the amount of $266,331.33 for October 14th, 2020, and September payroll in the amount of $435,129.31.
Second, aye.
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 Old business,
I don't have any old business tonight.
new business.
New business, believe it or not, we have 3 weeks in one day before middle school basketball games. So, unbelievable. But we have, so that's sparked quite a bit of movement as far as trying to get ready for an indoor pack. Obviously, we can't pack the house in basketball with the way things are right now. So we have some guidance, and I've sent you that guidance from the Jackie Patterson, our Osage County Health Department. That's a recommendation from her that follows some of the CDC and the KDHE and the Kansas High School Activities Association guidelines, and those guidelines are listed on that. I think if you want a copy of that, I can probably get you one. I have a copy if you need it. But superintendents met because we're trying to put some lead guidance, and we want that to be broad guidance from the superintendents because the league is really an administratively run organization, and we try to make it as much at the building and activity director level. They've got to do the business of that, but we try not to step on their toes too much. But at the same time, this is such a huge, this is a big deal. So we met as a league twice on superintendents, and what we came up with was 2 broad guidelines: 50% capacity maximum, and that's seating capacity, not fire capacity, seating capacity. So no school will have any more or put out any more tickets, or however we choose to do it. I think each school can do it a little bit different. They have, but so 50% seating capacity in your facility. That number can fluctuate down from there, but not up from there, because we all know that some schools will have different county regulations that they have to go by. The other thing that we said is masks will be required. That's all we said at this point. Masks and 50% is a maximum seating capacity. And that's what we took back to all of the league schools. And then from there, these guys will set some of the detail around that.
Do we or do each of the league teams have to let everybody know what that number is?
Yes.
And that'll be posted, and then
We put it on the website, so I think it's how the guys have been doing it.
On the activity update, it's a
Yeah.
link and it's
Yeah, and that'll tell us,
easy to follow. I mean, it's been really easy for as a parent.
if we go to somewhere, we're probably one of us, maybe Central Heights, seating, is probably as limited in our place as anywhere. But whether that's 4 kids per kid or for home and 2 for away, and I think you guys can speak to any of this if you want to, however you want to go about it.
Well, I did some measuring in the gym, went through and measured every bench and left out the aisles and tried to figure it up and pretty well came up to it. Looked at what consists of a seat size, and it's everywhere from 18 to 24 inches depending on, the person. So I went with the larger size of 24 inches just to be more conservative with our sitting space and allowing, as much space as person for each person. So once I measured the whole gym and did the 24 inches, I came up with, 287 times 2. So I did the 50%, it came up with 287 seats available for our crowd. Now, when I talked to the league, we talked about, does that include pep band? Does that include your student body? Does that include, what does that include? Cheer, dance, all of that thing. So we consider players not part of that number, but our cheer, dance, and pep band was part of that number because we feel like that this is part of their opportunity too as a student life, that this is something that they thrive and want to do, and this is their night, and that's what they want to do. So of that 287, I took 50 students for pep band, 20 students for cheer and dance. We have 29 and 11. And then about 50 students for student body. I was just throwing it out a number. So with the number of our basketball players and those, we're almost 2/3 of our student body completely already. So I think that's a pretty good number, which would then leave 160 seats to give tickets to parents for varsity nights. I talked with coaches. Tim and I met with the coaches last Monday, and obviously they want to see the season play, whatever that looks like. So if we did, depending on the number of we have go out, but 160 tickets, I was guessing about 4 tickets per player to be able to come to our home games. So we would still, and then 2 tickets for away schools and no cheerleaders. So we talked a little bit about that for when we travel, to take cheerleaders or not. And so some schools were, no cheerleaders on the road. And then some were like, well, we don't care. And then some, no, we would like to have. So we'll have to come up with some discussion on that. But I think each school can do it the way, as volleyball and football's gone too. Each school just kind of puts out their own parameters. Kind of uniform, but then still have their own little touches. The way our school is and the way we're set up for our gym, I would recommend not having any visitor cheerleading. And then that would leave for the visitor side, because they don't want anybody within 6 feet of the players. So that basically would take the player benches all the way up to the wall. We could layer our players instead of having them all spread out on one long row, put our players in 2, maybe 3 rows. So that would take up those 8 rows behind the players, home and away. And then it would give the 2 end sections just for visitor parents. And that was about 42 seats. And so that's about 2 tickets per player. If you think you had, 12 and 12, varsity is about what you have, 24, 48. So I had 42, so it'd be real close. With the 24-inch seat being conservative there, I think that would be a pretty good number to come up with. We did talk about what happens when JV's over and everybody comes over the home side, comes over to the gym. Don't have a real good answer other than trying to convince people that, come and watch your own kid when they're done playing. Feel free to take them and go home. It would be a tough thing to police, but so we didn't mess with that side at all because we didn't feel like that was going to be a crowded area. So I haven't measured the middle school gym. I don't know, did you get a chance to do that? So we haven't touched that, but being 4, I'm sure that we would probably be okay over there as well. So that's kind of what we were thinking for our home gym.
And the middle school might be a little different just because we don't have band, we don't have dancers, we'll still have cheerleaders, but at the same time, we'll probably have more rough numbers right now for middle school basketball. We have an interest meeting Friday, but rough numbers are 40 boys and 30 girls. So we have more students, and the students that need to be supervised a little bit more than high school students. So there could be a little bit of difference there too, but it's probably similar numbers.
But all these games will be live streamed from home games. What about road games?
Everybody in the league has talked about streaming. Of course, streaming is about as reliable as the internet. I mean, we're depending on hotspots and things are gonna happen where, it doesn't happen. But the plan is that everybody's gonna stream their games and then share those links. One of the discussion was that if I'm streaming it, you don't need to bring your cameraman over and stream it too, using up more bandwidth and whatnot. So we just share out what link it is, so they can give it out to their people and they could watch it as well.
Are you
But-
gonna stream all games or just varsity games or what?
Right now it'd be one gym. So it'd be whatever games are in
That
that
might
gym.
change though, cause
It
I've
could
talked,
change.
I have talked to Andy and he's talked, I don't know where we're at with it just yet, Dave, but I think he's got a camera that he can put in there and just hit start and it could live stream it, both gyms.
Kinda like what we do in the auditorium.
So we're working on that, so that we would do both gyms. We just have 2 links. I'll get back with him on that though, because that's what our plan was.
Will we still have 2 entrances to get into
No,
the building
well,
or just the
Just
one
be the
by
one.
We just
Because-
use the one because of the temperature.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And we didn't really mandate that from the temperature checks because, but some of the schools may still do that. Obviously, ours is easy because you just walk in.
All schools I went to did temperature checks this year.
I think Council Grove, Linden.
Inside, some outside
For the
did not.
volleyball.
Yeah, Council Grove, Linden and Osage have the thermal cameras.
Okay, so then that leads to my next question. So if people coming in, do we have someone ready for a temperature that goes off, or is it, going to phones?
It goes to phones.
It sends a
So
picture
somebody-
of that, and we actually had that as one of our games early in the season. It was hot outside and they walked in for a volleyball game, and it was easy to identify the person, and I took them to the office, did another temp check, and they were fine.
We
So
get,
it's pretty quick,
the
actually.
good thing about basketball season is you're not gonna have those false heat readings that we had in August.
Everybody will come in cold with their,
Yeah.
Might have a 36 instead of a 90.
Yeah.
I've been down with 93 at times.
Mine's
Might be calling down ours though.
So to get to the 287, you just used the Homewood gym.
I just did the Homewood gym on the home side. That 287's on the home side only,
Oh,
not the home and visitor.
Do the players, if they're not playing, do they have to have a mask on the bench, kinda like volleyball does?
I think that comes from the Acacia recommendations.
I didn't.
And part of that 6-foot social distancing,
Coaches do too, unless they're coaching.
what's
They
that?
should- They should be wearing one the whole time.
Do the coaches, like, do they get pulled down if they're yelling and screaming at their kids, or is that kind of
They haven't mandated any of that stuff, but
a little bit of wiggle room there?
I mean, you see the coaches doing this, even in volleyball,
Oh, yeah.
Some of it is even just to cover their face because they wanna tell them where to serve it and,
There's a
but
lot of technique.
Officials then will be wearing masks.
officials wear the mask, be using electronic whistles. But again, they don't have to because they're gonna be physically exerting themselves. So some of them will choose not to wear a mask.
Off of that subject just for a second, since we got a game coming Friday, Eureka, are they mandating masks for that game?
I
believe
think
they
I just
do.
updated that in the guidelines today.
he did, just read it.
They are gonna have a mask that go through the gate, and then they recommend to have it on if you cannot stay socially distanced. But you have to have a mask on to get through the gate.
But no limits.
any other questions on any of that? It's coming up pretty quick, so I appreciate these guys. We've had quite a few league meetings and different things in the last couple weeks too to get that set up, so.
So since we haven't done this yet, like, is that gonna be like a office duty to collect those names, or the coach's duty to collect those names, or?
So we talked about that as a league. We're gonna do a Google Doc so I can keep it updated. So the coaches would collect those names and tell me who it is coming this week. This week it might be mom, dad, grandma, grandpa on dad's side, or, you know, two grandpa, you know, whatever, but they just update the names. And I have a Google Doc, so we agreed as a league that we would update that Google Doc by noon the day of the game. So we can print them off and have it ready for our ticket people. However, if there is a late change, I'm sure we can, you know, make a quick change, but typically that's the goal, is to have it updated by noon. I think there is a school that's wishing to do tickets, so there may be a school that wants to do tickets and we hand out tickets instead, but primarily we're hoping to use the Google Sheet, but
And if something doesn't work out well, it might change throughout.
it might change, absolutely.
I know that, I think it was Council Grove, it might have been the JV game, they just like basically checked like, who's your player, how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, and my son lost his tickets, so it was very dramatic, because we didn't think we'd get in. But they weren't even really taking the tickets, they were just marking them off, so I that's another way they do it versus official names of who's gonna be with who. I can tell you for my family, it will be the day of at 3 o'clock on which grandparent gets to come probably, so.
Right.
That seems like a lot of pressure to get
Probably
those
be more
names.
based on the number, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then somebody
Yeah.
else comes in trying to get in under your name, they've already been marked off,
Yeah,
sorry. type of thing.
so I don't know, that's a lot of undertaking for you guys, for sure.
It is different.
Mrs. Paul, how about a preschool report?
Yeah, Mr. Hutton just wanted to have me give an update on how our preschool is going. We have, of course, 3 preschool teachers that are doing a fabulous job, Jenny Long, Heather Lieber, and Elizabeth Tice. They're very, very busy, I will say that, and they've got some really good paras that we're working with them too. We've got Nicole Bailey, Betty Norris, Andrea Neary, Kaylee Thompson, and Jeremiah McConnell. All of them work really, really well to get our kids prepared for kindergarten, but right now, our numbers for 3-year-olds, we have 28 in our 3-year-old program. We do try and limit those classes to 10. We'll probably be getting in some new students because right about now is when we start doing some evaluations, and that's when we start getting some new 3-year-olds. Our total for 4-year-olds, we have 42 right now, and we've been trying to limit those class sizes to 15, and we are pretty maxed out right now. So things are going really well, so that's a total of 70 students that we have in our preschoolers right now. So that's really good. I know that my teachers sometimes get stressed out with our little ones, but I just keep telling them, it's okay, they're in our school system, they're getting the structure that they need, they're getting the rules that we incorporate in our school, and they're getting that understanding already. So I'm really excited about that, and I said, I can only imagine the rewards that we're gonna see when these students are kindergartners. It should really pay off, so thank you so much for supporting the preschoolers, I appreciate it, and I know the teachers are very thankful too.
KESA process, that's what we talked about during negotiations, isn't it?
Yeah, this,
Let me read one.
well, I'll go ahead and just kinda update you. We did, the accreditation process, as you know, we've been working through it, we're on year 4. But they're giving us the flexibility to not mess with that this year, basically. The State Board of Education voted to basically take something off of our plate, and that would be the KESA process this year. And not that we can just forget about it, we're definitely not gonna do that, because what we would do next year in August is come in and start year 4 next year. And then it's a 5-year deal. So I put it out there, I didn't wanna make that decision without the teachers having their input, but we put it out to the district leadership team, and it was unanimous to, if they would like to maybe put that on the back burner this year. And I certainly support that, and I know these guys do too, so we just need that motion. I wanted a board motion on that because you guys are part of that process as well.
So I'll make a motion that we pause the KESA activity this year, resuming to year 4 activity next August.
Second.
Aye.
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 Three Lakes report, right?
Okay, I've been to a couple of Three Lakes meetings since we last met. Let's see, September 14th and October 12th, just a couple of days ago. Three Lakes having problems filling para positions, a couple reasons for that. Of course, the COVID, a lot of people opting to stay home, and the unemployment is, I don't know how you would say, the unemployment is very lucrative right now, shall we say, that's being offered. As of last month, there were 10 positions open, and they hired 6, 1 has resigned already, and there was also 8 resignations. So it looks like about 13 down right now, so it's gotten worse from one month to the next. A letter was sent out to the parents of the kids that are on the IEPs, just letting them know that what's being done as far as recruiting parents. Some of the ways are ads in papers, websites, contacting former employees. They contacted the dean at Allen County for recommendations. And let's see. Oh, they're discussing putting cameras in the frameworks up there. And that's something they're looking at for a couple different reasons. They can look back and see if something happens, they can see exactly what happened, and then there's less room for interpretation. And also, as a training aid, they can look back and say, okay, what can we do better here? This is what happened. So that there isn't any bids or anything out on that yet. Dyslexia training, I guess is started. I think we've started that. They're painting the ramp over there in Linden. And let's see, new sign, the contractor, Luminous from Topeka, was the lower bid on that one. And they had all the size and specifications, all that. We had a picture and it looks real nice. Let's see, other than that, we did made a decision on, there's a interrelated teacher at our school, and I believe has requested to, I guess, get out of the contract by the semester. And the action that was taken by us, we agreed to do that as long as an acceptable replacement could be found. And then we also voted on a 2% raise for the grant. And that's it.
Mr. Hudson, about how many people are we down from a Three Lakes personnel perspective, like impacting USD?
I think I'd have to ask you guys as far as paras, we've got all our teaching staff, but I don't know how many paras we're short. Do you guys, can you tell me that? I'm not sure.
Okay.
We have so many paras,
I'm good at the high school.
I don't think it's affecting us
A
much.
handful,
I'm down 1 in K1, I'm down 1 in 2-3, I'm down 1 in 4-5. And we are requesting another preschool parent. So yeah, I'm down.
I'm down 1 in the middle school.
So half of it.
4 or 5.
Recreation report, Corey.
Well, middle school football has hit us hard because that's when we usually meet, so half my quorum has kids involved or is working in the school board. But right now, we're finishing up with the fall activities. Soccer will finish Halloween weekend. Flag football, the pre-K kindergarten and the first and second, or not pre-K, the first and second grade groups were able to actually play a game. They went to Council Grove this last Sunday, and actually they each had a game against Council Grove first and second grade team. So they were super excited about that. And the pre-K kindergarten group, they're just practicing because Council Grove doesn't have kids that young playing flag football, so they're just practicing probably through the end of October. We had our cheer camp. Elizabeth Tice had, oh my gosh, probably like 55 or so total kids from pre-K through 5th grade. And I thought they did an excellent job with the whole setup for everything. They did practices Tuesday and Thursday of the week that they performed out at the track so they could kind of be in their groups and have plenty of room to social distance. And then Friday, their performance, they split it up to where the younger girls were the first quarter, first and second grade was the second quarter, and then third through 5th grade was the third quarter. So they weren't out all at the same time. So, let's see what else. Youth tackle football, 3rd, 4th grade is doing pretty decent. They have all but one of their kids is 3rd grade, so they're getting through the season, doing well. 5th and 6th grade, actually tonight is playing at Council Grove, playing their 5th and 6th grade team, and then this Saturday they'll play at home against Linden, and then we had a situation with Ottawa's team the day before they were supposed to play, like last Friday. Ottawa's coach was told by a parent that one of their players tested positive for COVID and had actually exposed the whole team at their practice on Tuesday. And he wasn't happy with the parent because the parent wasn't upfront with that information until right before game time. So luckily, he was very diligent, contacted their health department person Friday evening, and then contacted me at about 7 o'clock, and we postponed the game. And so we're able to get all that information out in a timely manner. But yeah, just one of those things you gotta deal with. So we're trying to figure out an alternate date sometime next week. Middle school football will be finished, so there's a possibility it could be a Wednesday or a Thursday, which I'll let you guys know kind of what day is they're good with. So, and then that will be the 5th and 6th final game. They'll have played, I think, 5 or 6 games for this fall. So. And then the barbecue contest, Smoke in the Spring. It's been quite a roller coaster ride over the last month. I have, since March, there's been 39 teams dropped from the contest. But on the flip side, I've had 41 brand new teams to the contest add in. So I'm still at 100. The last 2 days have been kind of crazy, but I'm still at 100 teams. And wonderfully, the high school football team beat Wellsville. But for me, that means that they have a playoff game October 29th. A home playoff game, I should say. So I have put it out to my teams already that, the site map and their layout and everything, and then have notified them that they cannot arrive until Friday morning. So, which is perfectly fine. Some contests, that's what they do. So, we'll make it work, and we're kind of getting enough tables set up for the judging because I have to have 2 tables for every actual table. So this year with turn-in and everything, I'm looking at about 50 some tables total that I'm having to come up with. And volunteers have been fantastic. Local sponsors have been wonderful too. I mean, they're super great to work with. And I know the teams are excited. And actually, the Team of the Year standings, the top 2 teams are less than 100 points apart. And that it means that Osage City's contest could determine the final winners for all those categories. So that's kind of cool too to have it come down to us. And then lastly, I put out youth basketball forms. I have no idea how this is gonna go, but at least for us, kinda like with baseball, softball, we'll take sign-up forms. I'm not having parents pay unless I absolutely get to that point. And then, I put in my dates for gym time and all that, I understand that process, so we'll just see how this kinda goes. If we're able to do it, fantastic. If we're not, we're not, so it'll be a fun winter to get through, that's for sure. So, but that is it for now.
Administrative reports.
Yeah, I'll go get started. Parent-teacher conference time's coming up, so parents should be getting their invitations if they haven't already for those things to happen. At the high school, we will have student-led virtual conferences this year. You won't be coming into the building to visit with kids. It'll be a virtual conference, kind of made a uniformed. Some of the students, and some of you have already seen the slideshow where they go through their individual plans of study and that kind of presentation. So we kind of adopted that throughout the building, and so then we can just build onto it every year. So every year, then they have like more of a electronic IPS, to build on, and they have we still use career cruising. We're looking at maybe even updating that through Zello. Brock Baxter and CTE teachers are working on a grant now to look at some different things that we might be able to do with our individual plans of study and work-based learning and internship class and all that. So, but those conferences are coming up, but it all leads right into what the kids are doing. I know there's still parents out there that don't understand why I'm conferencing with my seminar teacher. They don't know my kids' grades. Well, it is about what do you want to do after high school? What are we going to do while we're in high school to get there, and have that kind of a conversation. Grades ought to be a constant and continuous conversation throughout the year. It shouldn't be waiting for 2 nights a year to talk about grades. So I encourage teachers to continue to communicate with parents with grades. Activities, Scholars Bowls. Scholars Bowl, some are in person and some are virtual, but they're kind of back and forth. Really, there's been no spectators for the ones that are in person, but they're going to be getting started, and so we'll see that happening. Football, 5-1's current record. It looks like we will host that first bracket game at home on 10/29. It will be a 7 o'clock game. Not sure who it's going to be yet. It's probably like Cherokee Southeast or whatever that is, or Fredonia, kind of the way it looks like right now, but we'll wait and see. Volleyball, they're 6-13. We just decided today after last night's games that we will be the 5 seed in the tournament. So we will go to Central Heights for that tournament. It'll start at 9 o'clock. Initially, they were going to say no spectators, but they are going to give us 2 spectators per participant. So kind of a smaller gym, but their superintendent and the county did allow them to get spectators. And sub-state volleyball will be at Burlington, and they're allowing 6 spectators per participant. So debate, they are doing theirs. Debate meets are virtual. Attended a couple so far. We did win one, Rossville debate tournament. We have one particular group that's doing really well. So, as they progress, I look forward to seeing them, a young team. It's a real young team. So I see them maybe getting some qualified for state this year. Girls golf just finished up regional golf Monday. Didn't play so hot, but we did get one girl qualified for state, and state will be down at Cheney. Originally it was going to be at Hutch, but Hutch had some COVID situations, so they're not hosting any activities at that golf course, and Cheney picked it up. It is a 2-day tournament on the 19th and 20th, and everybody plays on the second day, nobody gets cut that first day. And that's new. This is the second year to have a 2-year tournament. Before it was just 1 day. Cross country, had our home meet, had wonderful weather for it. It was a great day. Normally, it seems like we have 40-mile-an-hour winds out of the north and drizzle, and not a fun day. But that day was a fun day, this one, and it went well. League will be up Mission Valley tomorrow. Regionals will be at Gibson, southeast of Saline. How we got out there, I have no idea, because there's one at Silver Lake and one at not too far south of us either. So, but we get to take a long trip to Salina. Marching band, they did get on the field the last home game. They have had quite a challenging year. This summer they had part of their, as you know, their band camp canceled. And then all marching band festivals were canceled. We couldn't go to Emporia or Ottawa or Washburn or any of those things. Some of our upperclassmen really wanted to do that, and once that was canceled, they decided they had better things to do with their time and dropped band. So I had 7 of that happen. And then we had 5 of our best players move to a different district just out of the blue. So band is down 12. And so it's been a challenging year for him. It would have been for anybody, experienced or first year. He doesn't have anything to gauge it off of, but he's doing a good job. He's got the kids going. I thought they did a pretty good job last Friday when they did their little marching. They're going to add a little bit too for the last home game against Humboldt. They'll add a little bit to that, and we'll see what the last bracket play comes. So they're sounding better all the time and got kids and working on it. So appreciate Mr. Nicholas, his efforts. Activities Week was this week, which is the Kansas Activities Association Appreciation Week. We did give coaches gift cards, and we're going to do a breakfast this morning, but it got postponed to next week for other reasons. And then Stuco and Cheer and Dance have done some thank yous for the coaches throughout the week. I did want to report real quick on our numbers, just numbers. I'm not going to give you names or anything, of the number of students and people who have been quarantined and are remote learners. This is interesting for the fact that we have 210 students, I think, officially at the high school. Currently, we have 20 students that have chosen to just be remote learners off the top. Instead of coming to school, they want to be remote learners and do their work from home and not come to school. But in the last 2 weeks, I would say, we have an additional 16 students that are either tested positive, or they're in the household of a positive, or they're being quarantined because of contact tracing. But that number is growing, and that's obviously a concern. I think of everybody's that, what's going to happen with that number. Part of me thinks that we ought to be proactive and think about what we can do with our attendance, with our activities, to try to mitigate that spread or that kind of contact. We have this many students in the building, it's just impossible. I mean, they're like magnets anyway. I mean, I wear myself out all day long, pull the mask up, get away, just all the time. I know Keisha's not going to call off activities like they did last semester when they called off basketball and no track and no baseball, softball. It's going to go, and everybody's going to play if they can play. And I know if this number continues, we're probably going to be remote, and our activities will be done until we come out of remote. So I know I've talked to the teachers, and we talked to teachers on Monday. There's lots of ideas out there, but I think I would rather be proactive than reactive. I think when we once become reactive to what our numbers do, then I think there's only going to be one reaction, and we're going to go remote. and we're gonna be, I think that'd be a horrible thing to do. If we can, we may end up doing it anyway, but, if there's some things we could do to keep that from happening.
So what steps are you talking about being proactive?
Well, have talked to, I mean, there's been really 3 different ideas. And, you know, I know which one I would prefer, but, you know, one idea was to keep all kids in a cohort group. So when the kids come to school, they would stay with their seminar group, and they would just stay with them all day long. And they would remote in with their teacher, or their teachers would be teaching inside their classroom. I think that would probably force a lot of kids to be remote learners, because why am I gonna sit in the room when I could sit at home and do the same thing? And you're gonna tell me I have to wear a face mask when I can go to the bathroom, when I'm gonna eat, when I, you know, so they could do the same thing at home. So I think there's some problems with that, but that would, our seminar groups are as small as groups as they are, because I got them spread out with all the teachers. I think the largest group is 13. And so that would then also destroy our electives. You know, you wouldn't be able to go to band and mix it up again. You wouldn't be able to, you know, do the PE classes and some of the things that the kids really enjoy here at school. So there's some problems with that one. We talked about the hybrid, where students, group A, half the students would go to school Monday, Tuesday, and then remote Wednesday and Thursday. Group B, they would go to school on Thursday, Fridays, and remote Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. So we would go 2 days to school, have a day of cleaning or disinfecting, but still remote learning. And then on Thursday, Friday, doing that as well. So that would be another one.
One of the things that I have proposed, we met, Three Lakes Superintendents met last Friday, that this could impact that some too, if it goes through, and I'm not sure if it will or not, but there's some counties that have put into place that they're quarantining if you have a mask on, both parties have a mask on, then quarantining may not have to occur as frequently. So that's been made aware that some counties are doing it that way. We posed that question to our county health director also.
Through the contact, if the
Yeah.
contact has been masked to
But
mask.
if you have a contact, so right now, to contact trace, it's anybody that we can figure out was within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes.
Mask or no mask?
Mask or no mask, doesn't
Oh, got
matter.
it.
So what we're trying to look at with her is if we have kids in a mask and there's that contact, which is really hard to stop, that maybe if they want to quarantine, it would be up to the parents at that point. You know, so that if both the positive person and the other person had a mask on, that maybe we would not have to quarantine, but you could still give them the option. That would take a lot of pressure off, I think. And I think it would do 2 things. Number one, our kids, I think, would do a lot better job of wearing a mask, and an effective mask. And it would sure help us, because, you know, we have rooms the worst rooms are in the middle school. We just have no idea what we can do to change that. There's very, you know, and still have all of your technology tools.
As far as distancing, is that?
Yeah, there's just no room to get our kids far enough away from each other. The county superintendents were 100% in favor of that unanimously. We just haven't heard back on that yet. So we're hoping that will play into this deal too. And if it does, and if we get that leeway, I think it could really affect us having to make some drastic. We've talked about all kinds of options. Not all of them have dramatic negative impacts, I think, to the education. The cohort group, talked about that, talked about going hybrid. The one thing that we want to do is keep school going and keep our kids able to participate. And we took a pretty good hit on that this week, and we're afraid that that's gonna continue if something doesn't give.
So you're saying there's other counties that, you know, for an example, we're not exactly 6 feet apart. So one of us
yes,
have it, we both have masks on.
I know Coffee County's
Still
doing that.
quarantine.
Coffee County is doing it, and they sent that information out. I sent that straight to our Osage County Health Director, and then also to our county superintendents. So we met on that Friday. It was unanimous that if we had that, it would be beneficial for our schools. I just don't have any information on that just yet.
Yeah, and if it's a county decision, I mean.
It's a county decision.
It is what it is, but I like the idea, because that's kind of my first question that pops up of, well, then why are you wearing a mask?
The mask,
You know, it's like, what is that just from a 6 feet perspective, but.
the mask
I guess it is.
right now is just to mitigate spread.
It's like washing your hands.
But it doesn't help on the quarantines. We had a lot of confusion with that at the beginning of the year because a lot of our teachers thought that did. If we all had masks on, we wouldn't have to quarantine.
Yeah.
But if we could get that going, I think it'd help a lot.
What is that number?
So I currently have
35 total.
35 what?
I think we have 35 total quarantined right now.
In the
But
district?
there's more
When-
kids there's more people
Yeah.
gone than that. Yeah.
There's 35 quarantined because of contact tracing, but
Contact tracing.
like I had 6 kids go home today because 2 are being tested and their siblings have to go home while they're being tested. So I have 1 current active positive case, and then I have 3 that got tested either yesterday or today, and we're waiting on results.
What's the turnaround time on that?
3 to 5 days. Upwards to 7 days. Now, we've never had any take that long, but that's what they tell them. It could be from 3 to 7 days.
So while they're waiting their quarantine,
So they have to be in quarantine until our results are come back. And now, once we get a positive, if we get a positive, then we have to look back 48 hours from the last contact with symptoms. And so, you know,
It's
so it
quite
puts
an
a lot of
ordeal.
work on you.
It's a lot
it's
of,
nuts.
the contact tracing thing is a mess. It's just really a lot of work.
And it's strange because somebody positive can come back before their family member that got quarantined because they live in the same house. Because they're assumed positive and they won't test them because they're assumed positive. Unless they get symptomatic, and then they'll test them and see if it's something else. So it's just, we'll learn way more about COVID. But these 3 come back positive and this number's gonna change, definitely. And so, that's,
My biggest fear is we got cold and flu season coming. And everybody that gets a cold or flu is gonna have to get tested and quarantined, and it's just, you see the nightmare that we got ahead of us.
and mask and sanitizing will help with that as well. It just will.
which would also make it nice that the county would make it where they didn't have to quarantine, they all had masks.
It would make it a whole lot.
It's to be a game changer, to be honest with you.
So, when is that decision being made, or they're just discussing it right now, or
Well,
not discussing it?
Unfortunately, we got that information to Jackie Patterson, but unfortunately her house burned down over the weekend, so they were really shorthanded all weekend long. And I don't know where she's at as far as making this decision, but I'm sure, I have no idea when that will be made. For us, the sooner the better.
I know they have a meeting tomorrow and they have a meeting on Monday, so.
Oh,
So this would put it in the hands of the parent if they,
I think you still ought to give the parents the option to
Absolutely.
quarantine.
because they would have the option to quarantine or not quarantine.
We'd still have to do all of our contact tracing on a positive, but if that person was wearing a mask and the other person was wearing a mask, then it's up to them at that point.
And if they quarantine, then they're automatically remote at that point anyway, so it's,
Yeah.
you're putting it in the hands of the parent if they want to.
Now, obviously, if they start having symptoms, they gotta go get
Yeah,
tested.
if their
Yeah.
student gets, symptoms and they test,
And then once the quarantine's over, they can come back, right? They don't have to stay.
Right.
And I think the more cases we start hearing about in the school, we're gonna have more students opting to remote just to not take the chance. We were up to 20 at the high school. We started out at 14. So, you know, that, I don't know, there's a lot of time between now and the next board meeting, and I just wanted to bring it up. And, you know, here's our numbers, here's the trend. And honestly, it may not happen. Our numbers may just disappear. That'd be great.
Is there a threshold that if like so many high school students choose to do remote learning that we don't have activities at that point? I mean, if you end up having about 40% of the kids opt to go to remote, do we still follow through with it?
Right now, if they just choose to go to remote, they can still participate.
Yeah,
So that's kind of a caveat on this thing that we didn't think about. A lot of them don't have to be remote, they're just choosing to do that on their own, and they could still participate. So it's really muddied the waters on that.
So they still come to practice, the
Mhm.
only time they're not here is during school.
Yeah.
So they're choosing to go right now.
Some of them have recently.
When we made that policy, it was, we weren't gonna switch mid 9 weeks without.
You could
principal
switch
approval.
one time per 9 weeks. So the 9-week ends Friday.
So if they switch now.
They switch now, they can
now.
switch again before Christmas.
Cause I think that's my biggest question is, like you said, we don't meet again, so is it the document we reviewed last month that's guiding you of when to go remote? Cause we never voted on that document. We had a lot of discussion, but.
Right now, we talked about it today, I mean, there's about 18% of our middle school kids gone right now. We talked about that being 15 to 20%, I think 20% was the last work, you know, that you guys were talking about that maybe we ought to go to remote once we get to that point. But the problem is right now, it's mostly in one grade level. It's in the 8th grade, so.
If the county nurse changed it to the mask deal, how much would that change that number?
Would it impact what we've already done?
The numbers that we have right now in quarantine, how many people would that affect? 15?
7 at the
10?
high school.
Possibly, yeah.
So
Would
almost
only have
half.
to-
So it
have
would
the
change the
one
numbers greatly if they would change the way the quarantine.
Right, yes, I think that's true. And honestly, it affected greatly because in the classroom, everybody had a mask on.
Exactly.
It would affect it dramatically.
well, and if you're sitting next to a kid and, you know, Dave and Mike are right adjacent to me, but if you have kids that are on the other side of the classroom that they're more than 6 feet away, those parents may not wanna worry about having their
They
kid.
probably weren't part of the contact tracing.
No, we literally had to go to every classroom, take a tape measure and see who was within that
6 foot.
6-foot radius. We did that everywhere that we had an issue. So
That's why I can't, the mask deal is what,
it's the key.
if the mask is helping, then they shouldn't have to be quarantined. If they're not helping, why are we making them wear a mask? Then it just matters on the 6-foot deal.
It's not that they're not helping, that's just what they're using for quarantine, it's probably helping the spread still. It's just not helping for the quarantine issue part of it.
Right.
Yeah, masks are very important to try to keep people healthy, but
Like I said, it's just like washing hands.
and they had
It's just another,
I don't have it with me, but I handed out a deal from that Randy Watson shared, Dr. Watson to the State Department that said, I mean, it went through and on a mask comparison when you got down to the bottom and both people had a mask on, I don't know if any of you bought that by
I did
chance.
not.
But
Yeah,
it's
they're-
I've seen that.
it's extremely low, and yeah, here it is. It looks like this, but if you are not social distancing and both people have a mask on, it says the risk is extremely low. And if you're social distancing and you both have a mask on, there is no exposure, is what this thing says.
So why are they quarantined?
I don't know, I mean, that's just the rules we're playing by.
I guess Who made the rule of how they get quarantined?
Health Department,
I don't know if it came from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment,
CDC.
CDC or whatever, I'm not really sure.
Well, in the last 6 months, everything's changed so drastically by what they learned and what they know and how things are. Almost day and night.
I guess what we're saying is we may have to make some drastic moves if that mask thing doesn't change. Because we don't know what's gonna happen, you can't read the crystal ball, but it feels like somebody's cranking the vice down on us and on the school, so,
Tony, would you be comfortable going to, if we did go to a different, whether it's a cohort or a hybrid model? I know we initially said our gating was that we wouldn't do the extracurricular, but would your comfort level on a hybrid model with activities be more comfortable?
Right, and so when we first talked about this, I never thought we would be talking about going from total in-person to hybrid. We always thought that we would go from in-person, go to remote completely, and use the hybrid as coming back to in-person. But now we're where we're at and know a lot of different things, and I think with Case is not gonna stop activities like they did last semester. And so I know some of these kids, that's why they come to school. Seriously, I mean, if it wasn't for activities, they wouldn't be here or would be achieving at what level they are. So I think those are important items, and in order to go hybrid, it would be to save us to continue to participate in
That's
our
right.
activities.
Right, in that.
And that's why I would suggest hybrid versus remote,
and
because we
allow
may
the
get there anyway, but maybe this will not get us there quite as fast
And allow the activities
and allow activities.
yeah,
okay.
in
Sorry,
our,
Mr.
Would be
Stewart,
for
I
high school only.
in our initial
I'm only
planning,
speaking
we
the
were
high
not
school.
going to allow-
I'm
we
not
were not
speaking for them.
gonna allow activities in
Yeah.
hybrid, but I think our two,
I just wanna-
we're just looking at it
Yeah,
totally different.
yeah.
Right,
So-
we've learned so much, I don't disagree at all.
I'm just clarifying that it was high school only for the hybrid as opposed to across the board.
Sorry, that's what that is. Now, when it comes to spacing at the middle school, it might be a smart model too.
Well, and that's the kind of the difference between the high school and the middle school is you would think that the high school students could handle being home and doing their work. And from the remote learners we have had, not that it's all students, but sixth graders, we're kind of lumping with the elementary school saying their class size is small enough that we think we have them spaced out pretty good. It's the 7th and 8th grade, and without talking to teachers more on this, but kind of maybe a hybrid of a hybrid, that maybe we have the same thing, Monday, Tuesday, one group, Thursday, Friday, the other group, but the other kids can still come to school, and maybe we put them in the auditorium, but they're doing remote in the auditorium with someone there to kind of just watch them, because a lot of those kids aren't gonna do it on their own.
And they're still getting fed and they're still,
Right, and then because we still, and my concern is with activities, so we go to this hybrid model, and then I still have 70 7th and 8th graders coming after school for basketball practice. So out of my 125
Right.
kids, 70 are still coming every day no matter
and
what.
getting them transportation is harder.
So, and if they wanted to stay home on those days, if their parents wanted, maybe there's a hybrid of the hybrid of the hybrid, where they could stay home on those odd days they're not coming, but we could supervise the ones that wanna come and need to be at school to make sure they're coming, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I got all sorts of ideas running in my head, but the thing is, how much do we take away from the education? Cause with each one of these, there's a little drawback, and then you go a little bit farther and there's a little bit more. That's why we wanted to try to do what we're doing right now, which I think our teachers and our plan's good right now, but when you have 20 kids in a small room, I mean, we all have basically the same seating charts, so our number, which was, we had a class of 18 and 14 of them got quarantined in that class. But it's not just because of that class. It's because each room's just a little bit different. So when we did our contact tracing, you might get one student here, you might get 2 different students in this class. But because of the way we're setting, we're not talking about 50 kids, we're only talking about 25 or 26, whatever, 28 that we did quarantine.
But again, that number could change drastically if they change it to where the mask.
If it was a mass thing, I think we'd probably be at 4 or 5.
Wow.
So it's kind of, we're kind of waiting to see what the health department is.
I think that's
See what her
that's the
decision is,
game
and then-
changer. If we could get that guidance changed for us, we may not need to look at any of this stuff.
For basketball practices, are the students going to have to wear a mask during the practice?
The rule is that if they're not participating in the drill, they should be wearing a mask.
They're not physically exerting themselves or
Now, how does-
recovering.
How does that look? Because I can see, you see other teams, and I'm sure our team's done it too, when they go in the volleyball game, they throw off their mask to a teammate. Well, that kind of defeats the purpose too. Or they throw it on the floor and someone else picks it up, whatever. I don't know. That was my question. How the heck you gonna do it? I don't know if they would allow net gaiters, but then they get all sweaty. Of course, then they'll come out, we get that approved, and then 1 week vacation, next week they'll say they're not approved.
Yeah.
That's what happened for football. So,
Yeah,
I
we
mean, that's a good,
Because they're not the uniform color.
right.
got every kid
Or not
dated,
matching.
and next week they changed the rule.
Really?
No, I don't even think it was a week, it was like 3 days.
True.
So, I mean, we got some ideas, we're gonna try, but I don't,
Is it possible in the really tiny middle school rooms, is it possible to split that class where you have half of the class in the classroom with the teacher and then the other half in I
Doing
would say
some
like
remote.
utility room?
yeah, and that's one of the ideas.
Like
but-
The broom closet?
Dave said it, right?
Yeah, one of the things that come from the state was talking about looking around your community and seeing if there was buildings to rent. So is that something we've considered?
We've thought about it,
Using
it's
the
just
senior center, the community center to spread people out more?
That puts so much pressure on your teacher.
Well, you're-
technology is the big problem.
It's gonna take more personnel to do it, and then depending on the internet service in those locations,
I wondered what that looked like, cause the state sent that out, I
Yeah.
would've never.
all the
think-
resources, it might be a good thing in a big city where those facilities are already well equipped.
Wi-Fi.
Have
Yeah.
we utilized our gymnasiums for
Yes,
spreading people out
We-
for classrooms?
even at lunchtime.
Not for classes, but we've converted it to a
Is that working well lunchtime?
lunch is doing about as well as we could do, I think. Still, you always wanna be able to separate more than you do, but we've more than doubled our lunchroom capacity.
And our PE classes are going outside as much as possible right now,
That's gonna
but
be
they're gonna be
changed.
coming in pretty soon.
The problem with utilizing the gym, and we talked about that too, and we might be able to utilize, just leave those tables down, and you could utilize that, but then you gotta pick it up for practice, which is no problem, that's just takes a couple minutes, but that's a possibility.
Corey, to answer your question though, if you have, like, let's say we split a class though, so you have the teacher in one and then you have an aide or someone supervising that other class, that's where that education drop goes a little, cause they basically become remote learners in the other classroom. So that's where we're trying to figure out, is it worth that drop right now? Or what we're doing,
And remote, it's not easy doing a remote learning.
It's not.
I mean, in my opinion, you're behind the class no matter what you do, no matter the technology you have. And, it's tough either way, so.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up and
That was good
throw the
conversation.
numbers out there and between now and next month, I mean, I hope the numbers hadn't changed, but I would hate to see us tomorrow go to remote and not take the opportunity of trying to save that and I mean, hybrid's obviously better than remote. Is it better than what we're doing right now? No. But it would get each teacher in contact with each student at least once a week. That's what it would do. And they would remote the rest of the time. That's all.
Do
Thank
we
you.
have to make an executive decision about that. If that would be the next step as opposed to what we've put out.
I guess it would be,
I guess we allow you guys.
just have the flexibility to make a decision based off, I think we'd wanna definitely talk to our staff before doing any of that. But having the flexibility to make some drastic moves without having a board meeting. Now, obviously, I'd wanna let you guys know what we're thinking, but, and hopefully, if we can get this rule changed, it's a game changer for us, and I don't know that we'd have to go to those drastic measures.
And
Just
all
I
the
don't know
super-
how long we can wait before we become the reactive.
All the superintendents are in favor of that.
Unanimous.
So we just all need to get a hold of our health department lady and say, hey, we'd like you to change this now. Makes it a lot easier for all of us.
And just to review the rules, we have to do what the county health department says, or can we take active staff as a district and say, this is what we're gonna do?
I think we really have to follow what our guidance is from the county health department. Cause I'd hate to not do that. I think to do that would set you up for some real problems.
Well, and there's two different things out there right now, cause the one, the county's already overridden and said you don't have to have masks. But then the governor come back out with one for just the schools and made it where you couldn't opt out, is the way I read it. Unless the county nurse opts you out.
Well,
And
regards
when I
to-
talked to her, she's not gonna do that without having the support of the community behind her, so.
the document we looked at last month that I mentioned we never voted on.
Gating,
We have the right to change that in any way we want, and that's what's guiding us whether we go hybrid or remote, so. I mean,
It's really,
If we're saying it's 35 quarantine and that's our absentees number, we could change that to say, well, use it off of the active cases and the people with symptoms to determine that number and not your 35 number.
but we don't need the county health for the gating, we really just need the county health to understand what we need to do to quarantine, right?
But if that's the document that you're gonna use without calling a board meeting, one, that should be an approved document by this board.
Right.
And two, if we're saying the mask is what's causing that to skew the numbers, then let's look at it differently. If that's our document.
Yeah, I understand what Mike's saying, is that if they change it to the mask, it changes everything. Right now, you're using a number that may not be accurate, which is pretty much the case with this whole thing, is that who knows what numbers are accurate. So if she comes out and says that, you said it changes these numbers substantially, so this gating number that we have now isn't even close to being right. So
I mean, cause you could be in three
until we
different
know that
colors.
number, we don't know, until we know what the rules, what she says that we're gonna have to do. Right now, if we go by the existing rules, we have those numbers, but those aren't necessarily positive cases. They're quarantined
they're
because
quarantines.
They're the
because
absent
they've been
cases, yeah.
doing what we've told them they had to do to keep everything going, and now we're gonna say, well, sorry, but that wasn't good enough, we should have never done that. I mean, the bottom line is, if we put that rule into place to make it go, then why do we want to do, I think we need to look at ways to stay the way we are and not look at ways to go a different avenue.
I think if we were talking
Last
about
chance is what we're looking on the other.
15 active positives right now and not 2, it'd be a whole.
That's what's making it,
conversation.
that's exactly the conversation we had today. Right now, we have 2 active cases.
But the number of
The number
quarantines
of quarantines,
growing off our other
Mhm.
criteria.
Mhm.
So, but I'm like, that document, you can be green in one field and red in another field, and we can still be in school learning, so.
we just, and looking at our situation right now, we didn't feel like it's, at least in where we're at right now, we feel like it made no sense to do something different. We need to have, it's best for kids to be in school.
I agree.
So what, in looking at the numbers right now, what would make you want to go to either hybrid or remote? What's that number? And how do you determine that number, I guess would be my question.
That's $1 million question.
Well, that's the proactive versus reactive that I'm talking about. Are we waiting for a number to say we go? Or are we gonna do something?
No, we're waiting to determine
That's
how
what I'm
we
saying.
get the number. That's the biggest thing right now to me, it doesn't matter whether the number's 100 or if the number's 5. It's
Yeah.
how are we counting the number?
We
Are
had
we
4 or
counting the
5.
number as a case, as a positive case, or are we counting the number as a quarantine. If we're counting the number as a quarantine, then why is everybody wearing masks? And I agree, that does help,
I mean,
but
yeah,
we're saying that it does help in one hand, but in the other hand, we're saying it doesn't matter, we're gonna go whatever because the quarantine.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing, is how do you get the numbers where they make sense, because a quarantine should not count the same as a positive.
I
Is there-
think
there's
when
plenty
I'm
of
looking
people
at the numbers, we're only looking at numbers that are not in the classroom for whatever reason. They're not there, teachers are remote teaching. And they're doing all these different lesson plans to accommodate all these different cases for 3 days, 10 days, longer. And so, I mean, that's what the numbers,
But if
that I'm looking at.
if the county nurse changes those numbers, then all those kids come back to school. So
some,
that's
some,
how you figure that, I mean, you gotta figure out how you're gonna count the numbers.
I would
because
have
you
7
can't
come
count
back
everybody
of the
that
17.
is out of school, cause it may not be anything to do with being quarantined or anything. They could be out of school because they're actually sick of
I'd
something else.
certainly like to know.
It'd be nice if she came out tomorrow, but I don't see that happening.
I agree, I mean, I understand.
Well, looking at this another way, if we have a problem area, say like the middle school and 8th grade, what helps that out? I mean, is it more space? Is it, what would prevent those numbers from getting larger?
The space would.
I mean, is it possible to take like a problem grade, say 8th grade was where you're seeing your troubles at now, and maybe do classes in larger rooms, whether it be in the auditorium, whether it be, you know, a section of the gymnasium, something like that, to where you have more space, you can still teach, it's just in a little larger area to try to get that number to settle down. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, if we had all those spaces, but the problem is we have 6 classes. Our 2 biggest classes are 7th and 8th grade in the district right now. And the 6th probably smallest room in the district right now. So if we had those places, that's what we
So
could do
can we
that.
change those rooms?
Okay, then instead of doing a rotation, maybe you look at doing, you know, are you rotating 3 different classes through, say, one subject?
Right.
Could those, like in the auditorium, teach all 3 at once, spread out?
I think my teachers might hang me if I told them they're gonna teach 60 middle schoolers at the same time. I mean, I know what you're saying.
And that auditorium's being used a lot already.
And we talked about even having the teachers switch instead of the students, cause that might knock a few more, you know, out of the equation. I mean, yeah, and obviously if we all had bigger classrooms, that'd be great, and we could space them out.
Well, I'm just wondering if going to more of a lecture style class would, you know, help that out. Get a little more room to teach more at one time, as opposed to having to send everybody home and go to remote learning, you know, it might be a step to consider, I don't know, just
Right.
something to throw out there.
So if the kids move from 6 foot to 6.5 or 7 foot, does that take all of it out?
It takes, like Mr. Hutton said, when we measured, it takes out when, like if me and Mrs. Paul, so I'm the one who's had positive, she would be quarantined because she's within 6 feet. Mr. Heward wouldn't.
So if
it's
you're
kinda
6.5
just like a
feet,
radius.
you don't get quarantined.
Huh?
So if we just move somebody 1 inch or
If
2
they were
inches,
outside of 6 foot, we did not count them.
then you don't get quarantined.
And you wouldn't get quarantined. But and then we do a real good job in the middle school, their class, they stay with the same class for the 3 core. But then when it comes to electives, they all go different places because we have a lot of choices, similar to what the high school does.
Yeah, that kind of blows it up.
That kind of blows it up a little bit. Now, same thing, it only affects the people that are around her, but it might be 3 different people that were in a different class in each one, so that's where your number goes from 14 that was in the one seminar class to add in another 14 that were in different elective classes. And if all our rooms were the same size and we could have the same seating chart, then it would only affect like 3 people the way we got it situated. Our teachers have done a great job of keeping them in the same order through all their classes. But like I said, every room is just a little bit different. So you catch one different student here, maybe one different student here. And they were just not quite big enough to kind of space them enough to get to get enough.
I would just hope that we would do everything humanly possible to keep the kids in school. And I'm gonna use Tim's example, because if you go to a hybrid and you take all these kids out of school, then you bring them all back and you got 75 kids all coming back to the same place, you think they're all gonna stand 6 feet apart? When they come back, no, they're all gonna be congregated right back in, you got more of an issue doing that. You have no control when they all show back up for practice. But I would think you would wanna keep them in school as much as possible that we can to keep them here. And I know that makes it tough, but again,
I
but who
agree
knows what
100
everything's gonna happen.
I
Well, the
agree
flip side
100%.
is, something that comes to my mind is, other than for the quarantine issues, are these positives coming from within our school or from outside sources? Like
Well, we don't
family
know
member
where,
got it from work or.
we don't know where it originated from, the first one, but it probably came from a student, and we probably got to another student.
But they brought it in from someplace else. So if we start the hybrid where we're moving in and out and then people can, intermix on their own once they're out of here.
Right, and that's the big problem, we can control them here, but we can do a lot of great things here. But once they get outside and they're going to do what they're doing, they're not doing it.
I mean, I'll say too, just from my personal experience so far, the teachers are very diligent about the 6-foot radius. I mean, they accommodate that as much as they can. And even with the students moving through the school, from what I've seen, they're still continue to be very diligent, with the kids spacing and whatnot. To me, it's what goes on outside. I mean, we have no control what they do with their own home. Friends get together, football, practices, etc. I mean, playing basketball down at, by the pool. I mean, there's pickup games down there almost every other night, and none of those kids wear masks. I mean, I've witnessed it.
Well,
So-
that's my concern about the hybrid, at least if you have them in school. There's a little more of a controlled atmosphere. If they're here 2 days a week, per group, why, that means they got 5 days to intermingle, do whatever they want, no restriction on that. You're liable to have more problems or bring in more problems than what if you keep them in class.
Just to be clear, I would not wanna trade positions with any of this.
I was gonna say,
So,
I've not thought about
I will
this
say
in
this, I would love to say thank you to all the teachers, coaches, paras, administration, custodians, lunch staff, every classified personnel that works in the school for doing everything they do to keep us open. And just remember that nothing's possible without teamwork for all of us, so thank you guys very much.
You want me to go with my report now?
this.
We got league cross country coming up tomorrow, that'll be at Mission Valley at 4:30. Volleyball tomorrow here, versus Chase County at 4:30. Junior high league tournament Saturday. We could be playing, we're right in the middle, we could be a 3, 4, 5, or 6 seed, I think, depending on how we do tomorrow. So that'll be determined we'll get together Friday and figure out where for sure we're playing. Council Grove's supposed to be the host this year, but because we're splitting into 2 quads, it could be Council Grove's right there with us in the middle. So no one wants to host a tournament that their team's not playing in. So that's kind of what we're waiting on to see where everyone falls. So it could be at Council Grove, it could be at Linden, it could be Northern Heights. We're just kind of waiting to see where the pieces fall. So right now, Linden is at the top of the league and Northern Heights is at the bottom, so they're kind of backups to where Council Grove is gonna be. So we'll get that all figured out, hopefully. I'm sure everyone will split and we'll have to do some tiebreakers, so. Football's here tomorrow against Wabunsee. I think this is the sixth game this year we're supposed to host out of 7, so that was
Yeehaw.
great for us, or great for our fans anyway, who didn't have to travel. Friday the 16th is the end of the first quarter, which, we talked to our teachers the other day about, if you would have told me we made it this far in the school year, at the beginning of the school year, I would have been very excited because I think, like I said, I think our teachers and our students, and we we had a challenge for the students, wearing their mask and keeping your bubble. I call it the student bubble, the stubble, keeping their bubble for them, and gave them ice cream, and they were pretty excited about that, so they have been doing a good job considering the situation. Middle school basketball practice starts next week, 21st. Parent meeting on Monday, the 26th. We got Red Ribbon Week coming up, the 26th through the 29th. It'll be a little different than in the past. Not quite as many activities. We usually have a cookout. We're not doing that this year, but we'll still have some activities for that. Virtual student-led conferences for the middle school. Again, parents will be able to do this from the comfort of their own home. Kids have been working on their PowerPoints or Google Slides that we did last year again, and they'll just bring their Chromebook home. They should be able to log on for their parents, show it to them right there, and their teacher will just be on a Google Meet on the other side with them, talking them through it, and our teachers should be working on getting those appointments set up right now. First basketball game is November 5th at Mission Valley, and so we'll start, like we've been talking about, we'll start planning for that and getting all those things worked out and hopefully make it through the season. That's all.
So for the elementary, we just had K-Kids officers were elected, and we're gonna be having a swearing-in ceremony. Usually that's done at a Kiwanis Club meeting, but I'm sure it probably is not gonna be done because of social distancing. So we will have a swearing-in ceremony and probably live stream that or video it, record it, and then send it out to our parents. K-Kids right now has 39 members out of the 56 fifth graders. They're gonna be hosting Trick or Treat for UNICEF here fairly soon. Usually we go out in our costumes and actually ask for donations in like groups of 5 or 4. Our president and vice president, basically this year, we decided not to do that. We are breaking the kids up into groups of 4 or 5, and then we're gonna give them their own boxes, and they'll go out, ask money from their parents, grandparents, that kind of thing, and it'll be kind of a teaming activity, so then those 4 or 5 students will come back, pool all their money together, and we said the group with the highest donations will get a gift of some sort, like a $5 gift card to someplace here in town. And they were all really pumped about that, so we're excited about it. Student ambassadors, which is led by Darcy Keefe, our school counselor, they're all gonna be sworn in tomorrow. That we had new, I wouldn't call them officers, but representatives of each class. It's gonna be sworn in tomorrow for the semester, and that again is gonna be, I think it's gonna be videotaped. And then we'll send it out to our parents so the parents can watch it, and then we'll also send it to our classroom teachers so the classrooms can watch it too. Elementary school teachers voted to have classroom parties and wear costumes on Thursday, October 29th to celebrate our fall break. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. Teachers have also been very busy this last few weeks with Ames Web testing, progress monitoring, and the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers are doing ACT Aspire testing like the high school and middle school have been doing over the last couple of years. And we're gonna get some more information on actually how to use those test results here pretty soon, but we are pretty excited about the information that it's gonna give us for our students. We're gearing up for virtual parent-teacher conferences, and like Mr. Riemann said, hopefully everybody's that's involved in the elementary school has actually gotten an invitation to sign up for an actual parent-teacher conference. The 5th grade teachers soon are gonna be hosting on election day an election for all of our student body in the elementary school. They're actually gonna have a primary with the 4th and 5th grade students, and then they'll have an actual election day for the whole student body. And no, we're not voting Trump or Biden, we're voting on favorite school lunch. So that's kind of what our election's gonna be about, so we're pretty excited about that too. Right now, the total enrollment for the elementary is 342 students. Our largest class is 5th grade, so congratulations, Mr. Riemann, at 56, and our smallest class is 2nd grade at 38. That's all I have.
I would move we go into executive session to discuss classified positions, supplemental positions, and administrative evaluation process pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under coma, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 8:45 with the administration to be present.
Second time.
Aye.
We're back in open session. I'd make a motion, we approve the resignation of the custodian Ron Lee to approve McKenna Lacy as a night.
Patty's not back.
Just a second. Do we hit the? Yeah.
Sorry, Patty, I was in a hurry. Mike was giving me my shot collar treatment over here.
Keep them going.
Hey, Tony, hit your button.
Okay, I would make the motion, we approve the resignation of custodian Ron Lee, to approve McKenna Lacy as a night custodian, to approve Carly Spicer as assistant softball coach, to approve Tyler Butch as assistant boys middle school, boys assistant basketball coach.
Second.